Hello, hello, hello. Testing, testing. Here we go. We are going to do a recording, and I think we should begin. It says that I think we are functioning. All systems go. I got the green light. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's see how's the lighting doing here. Some behind the scenes stuff. All right, I think we're ready, guys. This is a video for Libra. Whether you're a Libra moon or a sun, whatever the hell, wherever the hell your Libra energy is in your chart, just look at the house number. And that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about Libra energy for the month of June 2023 with G. You're watching Allastrology. And so let's talk a little bit about Libran energy, because we have to understand who we are. We got to understand a little bit more deeply about who we are. And then we'll talk about the events. So for those of you who want the short version, we're going to have a full moon, we're going to have a new moon, but then we have the whole Jupiter and Taurus thing. So we've got three main things we're going to go over. All right. But let's begin with Libran energy. Okay. And so understanding the Libran energy and how it works, right? Because then you can kind of better understand who you are and how you'll respond or how you'll use the energy that comes into contact with you for the month of June. Now, June doesn't have any eclipses or anything like that, but I will say that once we get into the very beginning of June, it's like things really, truly start to stabilize because we just finished the Mercury retrograde. And not only is the Mercury retrograde over, but it's out of its shadow zone. So things start to really, I've been saying the rubber is hitting the road, the rubber is hitting the cement, whatever you want to call it. Things start to stable and almost solidify where we feel like we know where we're headed. Okay. And we feel like when things stabilize, that means they're not changing and fluctuating so much. They become a little bit more stable. Right. So they tend to, Taurus energy. Yeah, I'm talking about Taurus because Mercury in Taurus. Taurus energy tends to be very stable, but Mercury is not. Mercury is all about changing and switching directions and variety and changing my mind. And, it wants all the details. And so it takes a while once we see all the details to figure out where we're headed or what we should do next. Okay. So as a Libran energy, that may be confusing at times because Libran energy is really like the diplomat. So they're like, I want to hear what this person thinks and what they have to say. I want to hear what they think and what they have to say. I got to consider those folks over here. And then what about me? Right. And Libran energy kind of, you could have some things that either make this more extreme than what I'm going about to say or make it less, right? Where it's not even a thing. But sometimes that Libran energy can be so accommodating and be so focused on compromising to others, those that are important to you, right? Because that's what Libran energy is so darn good at. It's so phenomenal at it. It is always, I don't want to say it's keeping a tally in its brain, but it kind of is, because remember, Libran energy, it's about things being fair and equal. So we're keeping score. We're keeping score in some way. There's some tally we've got written down or whatever somewhere. And we're like, okay, so I did that. Now somebody should do this, or somebody did this. Now I need to do this, or, and its idea is to be in harmony and to keep the peace. And so for Libran energy, that's really important. That's really important for it to be, to establish that peace and to like do whatever it can to maintain the peace. Libra energy. So compromise, maintaining peace, equality, fair. You hear me more often talk about Lady Justice is blind, right? Blindfold out over Lady Justice's eyes. So in other words, the visuals don't matter. The appearance doesn't matter. It's more about, what someone's telling me or the actions that are being taken, because Libra comes right after Virgo. And what do we always say about Virgo energy? It should make sense. It should be logical. The details are involved, but also Virgo energy, especially if we talk about a relationship, Virgo is about I realize, I see that this person is willing because I see by their actions. I see whether we can be domestic together, like can we cohabitate, right? Because that's what Virgo energy is. And then once we see that we can cohabitate, right? And like the details, the minutia, like 68 or 69, and I'm talking about degrees, by the way, on the thermostat, in case some people out there are like, what does G mean when she says those, when she's talking about those things? Because sometimes those little things can add up to be big things, because when you're living with that same person every single day, that thing can be a thing that just, yeah, it can become a huge thing, right? But normally it's money. Normally it's money and religious or spiritual differences of beliefs where people are like, okay, we can't do this anymore. And I'm saying living and cohabitating and marriage because Libran energy is all about that. It's significant one-on-one relationships. Okay. So understanding that right at the beginning is important. Now, Jupiter is a big deal for June. Okay. Jupiter became a bigger deal midway through May for all of us because it entered Taurus in June, halfway through June. It entered Taurus energy. All right. Now, knowing where your Taurus energy is for you is going to be important. But let's talk a little bit about what the hell does Taurus mean? It's my values. And what I love about talking about Taurus for Libra is you both have the same ruler, Venus. Right. I know, different, right? Venus is about love and relationships. Taurus is also about love, but it's like more about my values. Venus is we. Venus over in Libra is about togetherness, our values, we, our togetherness. It's us as a couple. I shouldn't have said our values because then that goes to the next sign after Libra, which would be Scorpio. You see how it's an evolution process. It's the next natural step. It's the next natural step. Just like the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Libra, Virgo, you heard me talk about Virgo, number 6, Libra, number 7, Scorpio, number 8. So you see how the energy grows and changes and evolves, right? And so being able to cohabitate and being like, yes, I love this person. They love me. That I can see it it's practical, it's tangible, it makes sense. We're committed. And then we tie the knot. And now we own things together, right? We have shared values. That would be number 8, Scorpio. Well, I'm bringing this up because your Taurus energy is in your 8th house of Scorpio. Okay. So Jupiter is in your 8th house now. Now, the thing is that you've had Uranus here for a while already. Okay. So Jupiter typically being a very beneficial energy, normally, to find out more about this for you personally, go find out where is your natal Jupiter in your chart. It has to do with your natal Jupiter, what house it's in, what sign it's in, really, what sign it's in, and does it work well in the sign that it's in natally, like in your birth chart? Because then that tells you how the Jupiter, no matter where or what sign it's going, it tells you how it's going to act. Okay. So I know that's going a little bit deep and maybe a little bit too deep for some. So I'll just step back from that and I'll just talk about Taurus, my values, my money, my food, my creature comforts, the earth. If it's in your 8th house, this is my values, but my values are our values. You follow? So it's really important for Libran to know that if it's married to somebody, that other person has to be openly willing to share. I remember a woman once time told me that her husband and her, I forget how long they were married, but when they got married, they moved into the husband's home. And I say it that way because it was a home that the husband inherited from his mother. So big, beautiful Southern home. Never been there, but that's kind of the way she described it. Big, beautiful Southern home. And she had said that the whole time her and her husband were married, he never once referred to that house as our home. Matter of fact, she said that he always referred to that house as his home, as his house. Not in my house, not under my roof, to his wife. He would say this. And yes, this person was a Libra ascendant. And actually, no, wait a minute. Well, I'm not trying to get all personal into somebody else's chart, but now that I think about it, it's been a while since I've seen that person's chart. No, this person has Capricorn on their ascendant, but they were a Libra birthday. So if you're listening and you know who you are, I'm using your example because it's a great astrology lesson of how for Libran energy in general, right? Whether you're a Libran birthday, we're talking about a Libra ascendant, Libra risings, having a spouse that is openly and willingly to share, meaning we're married, so it is now our values. That's important to Libra. And if that doesn't happen, there are absolutely wounds because that's the eighth house. Wounds about my values and our values. That is what this is about. The deep, the intense wounds. And it is intense because it's the eighth house. This is Scorpio stuff. So these can be tragic things with people that I had been physically intimately bonded with at one time, that I had physical relations with at one time, because Taurus and Scorpio kind of work that way. You know, you got Taurus in the eighth house, Scorpio, Taurus's desires, that's Venus energy in the eighth house of let's go to another level with this. Let's make this deeper. Let's make this, you know, the energy just wants to merge and bond emotionally and physically and energetically and whatever other way you can think of bonding with a person or even a thing, let's do it. And that's what you've got in your eighth house. Taurus is magnetic. It's like glue. It's like, how can I receive, right? And in the eighth house of wounds and Scorpio energy of wounds from my past, this can be a placement of pain for many of you Libras. So knowing that Uranus has been there, okay, Uranus has been going through there. So, you know, this doesn't mean surprises. But when Jupiter goes, what does Jupiter do? Let's break Jupiter down. Jupiter adds to things. So this can go a few different ways, and it might be a little bit of all of it for many of you. The difference is your perception and your awareness of recognizing it and see it in your life and relating it to what I'm talking about today. That's the difference, folks, because that's just energy. It just is. So, eighth house, shared values, taxes, death, right? I can think of a Libra ascendant who lost a loved one in the last year, sibling, actually, right? And so that's kind of that energy, right? Scorpio energy can be the eighth house, can be the physical death, but it can also be like a spiritual death. It can be a death to your old ways of living, but a death to your old ways of being and your own identity. It can be wounds as well. Those things from the past, those people from the past, those events, those tragic things that happened in the past. So if Jupiter's coming through here, it can add to all of those things. So again, our shared values, Maybe you're married and maybe you and your spouse have something else you're adding to your estate, right? Maybe you have another car, some sort of an asset of some sort, something you two own together, right? Something that you share together. But it's a shared value and it doesn't always have to be material and tangible, although Taurus can show up that way. But it could be like food, it could be land, right? It could be like, hey, we're going to have a garden this month. And some of these examples are very simplistic. I get it. But it can be simple like that, especially if you look in your eighth house and you got nothing there, right? There's nothing, no planets, no visible planets. Let's put it like that. Because if you have Scorpio in your eighth, you always have Mars and Pluto there automatically, which is why Mars and Pluto, Mars likes to take action. So if it's Mars and it wants to take action and it's about bonding, Mars is my body. Well, how do we bond, right? Again, I've given examples of how people bond through tragedies. We think of people who, I'm not going to even name the recent tragedies. There's just been too many. And I'm just like, America, please wake up and just vote all these damn people out of office, please. I'll save that for another time. But Unfortunately, the survivors of those events, that's an event they will now bond over. They emotionally are bonded because they either had a loved one that survived and made it through. They either had a loved one that went through it and didn't survive, and these are the survivors that are left, and so they have that shared grief together. You get where I'm going with this? People who've been at war together, soldiers, a band of brothers, right? Or a band of brothers. You hear me talk about that. Camaraderie, fighting together. It's a lot of Scorpio energy. It's about power. It's about intense power, deep stuff. And unfortunately, tragic stuff can be part of it. But it can also be because it's Taurus. Here's the other beautiful thing I'm going to add here. Taurus is Venus ruled, so it wants beauty and peace and goodness. Think of the Garden of Eden. Maybe that's not the best example, but think of food. We bond over food, right? We all bond over food. Like that's something that makes the world go around. You could travel around the world, right? And food, you don't even have to speak people's language. But if you find that you share something that you enjoy that another person enjoys, you bond over that, right? And so Taurus has that ability, that energy has that ability to bring people together with food and bond, right? Like at the dinner table or we go out for a lunch or whatever, go on a picnic, right? Food and some wine. And that's all Venus and Taurus energy, food and wine. Taffy's here. So let's let her up before she claws me into pieces. She wants to jump up, but she knows her claws are long and I don't have jeans on right at this moment. And I just was like, I better be safe. We got to play it safe, Taff. Come on and sit, get comfy. So let me get on with this already. I think you guys get the drift of where I'm going with this. Jupiter in Taurus. So it can expand upon things, right? It can expand on them. Jupiter in your 8th house. Jupiter and Taurus in your 8th house, more specifically. Now, we're going to the very first part of June. And in the first part of June, we have the North Node and the South Node. I'm sorry, we have the North Node and Jupiter coming together in Taurus. So this is like a really big deal if you have something at like 2, 3, 4, and 5 degrees. That's where the North Node and Jupiter kind of meet up. It's like a 2-degree orb, right? They get together. They get literally exact at 3 degrees. Okay. So maybe you should widen the orb a little bit. Maybe it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Especially if you have anything, a house cusp line or planets or even an asteroid or any of the minor bodies that I'm starting to talk about and do videos for, definitely be a bigger deal then for any one of these things. And you can't see the head. This is the butt, by the way. Whenever you guys hear me and I'm talking about giving Taffy a butt rub, that's it. You see the tail? You can't see the tail. This is the butt. The head is on the ground. The head is laying on the table. She's got her little elevator butt hiked up, like, rub my butt. I want a massage. I just gave her a nice little brushing. Yeah. She had to hide a little bit last night because we had thunder and that doesn't work for her at all. Okay. So she always needs a little bit more attention the next day. Yeah, just enough. She's such an easy cat to be with. Her sister is high maintenance. This one's not. Even though it seems like she's high maintenance because she comes in for the readings, she's not. Taffy is totally, I want to say she's self-sufficient, but that's unrealistic. But anyway, you get where I'm going. So the beginning of June, Jupiter is still a very big deal. Number one, it's in the house of Taurus, in your 8th house, Taurus energy in your 8th. Number 2, it meets up with the North Node. Number 3, we have a full moon in the beginning of June on the 3rd, and it's in Sagittarius. And you know what rules Sagittarius? Jupiter. So you see Jupiter, June, that's what else can I say? Jupiter, June. June is the month of Jupiter, right? So this placement, Jupiter is my beliefs. It's the justice system and the lack of it and the justices literally themselves. And I'm in the US, so if you follow US politics or whatever it is now, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But the judges, justices, my religious beliefs, my freedoms. It's about truth. It's about wisdom. It's about seeking. Aw, Taffy's showing you her. Oh, nice. What a treat you guys get. Yeah. So Jupiter's also traveling like by plane overseas, going across wherever and going on vacation possibly. Yeah. Now, you have this energy typically in your third house. And your third house, let me double check. Yeah, your third house is the way you think. It's your thoughts. It's the way you communicate. So these people are normally wonderful teachers. Yes, because you've got wise Jupiter who can see the big picture in the third house of details. So, in other words, you folks can take the minutia and you literally take that jigsaw puzzle of details and you get the picture created. You can take all those details, put them together, kind of like that strong Virgo quality. You put it all together and you're like, aha, the picture's complete. You can connect all the dots because you get all the details and you see the forest within you see the tree within the forest, but you can also step back and see the full forest. You've got the best of both worlds, right? Now, the only other thing about this and why I say these people make great teachers, excellent lecturers, because these people are long-winded. This is Jupiter. These are very long-winded individuals. They can talk forever and a day and still have room to go. Like, are we done yet? No, I'm not done. I still got more to say, right? Because it's Jupiter there. Jupiter expands on your thoughts. These people might have a very hard time sleeping. It expands on what you're talking about and the way you share information. The beautiful thing about the way you share information, because it's Jupiter, you can be a little bit of an exaggerator at times, which makes for a powerful storyteller. Because it's not about, here's the thing, we don't want to lie. We don't want to stretch the truth necessarily, but Jupiter may tend to do that. And if you do it in the right way, it can be done in the right way where the truth of the story is still held intact. If you use it where like a tool, where you're doing the exaggerating maybe at the front end and the back end, but yet the middle, like the meat and the potatoes, you haven't touched. You follow? Now, again, this is to be, it helps with public speaking. It helps with getting a point across. It helps with persuading an audience. It can be quite theatrical, because it's Jupiter. And Jupiter is the ancient ruler of Pisces, theater, theatrics, poetry. You'd be a great poet, right? So there's a lot of very interesting things in June. This being a full moon means it's a release. All right. In your third house, are you releasing a communication? You're releasing a form of communication. You're releasing, because it's Jupiter in the third house. So it's, we think of Sagittarius energy being the teacher. Are you releasing being the teacher? I know somebody who has this placement, and yes, their semester ends. So maybe they're releasing, right? They're done with that semester. They're all done. Third house is traveling, short trips, short journeys. But Sagittarius is long trips, long journeys. So there's something that you're releasing. It could simply be a belief about communication itself. I will also add here, third house is coworkers and siblings. Are you releasing a coworker? Are you releasing a sibling? I kind of mentioned that earlier on in the video. Are you releasing a routine that's in the community, a daily routine, right? Third house is my local community. Third house is my local community. Third house is like the post office, the mailman. Third house is what else is the third house? My next door neighbors. Did you see a for sale sign go up? Did your next door neighbors move? Yeah, third house is just think about your local community and all the things about that. It's also social media. Let's not forget that. Social media, big time. So when you're on social media, that's probably a big event for you. Because if you got Jupiter in your third house, what you do, there's like a whole lot of this. It's not just sharing information, but consuming it too. Third house, social media, news, newspapers, the radio, consuming information, whether it's through books, reading. But think about most people nowadays, they're online, they're doing it that way, but however you do it in your world. Okay. So that's a big release of some sort. The degrees of that full moon, 13 degrees and 17 minutes. Yeah, 13, 17. And that is on the 3rd of June. Now let's move on. We get further into the month. Remember, we still have Jupiter staying in the in the Taurus energy in your 8th house, and it's going to be here for the next 14 months. It takes Jupiter a little bit over a year to get through a sign. So further into the year, and we'll do a video about this, that Jupiter is going to touch in with Uranus and Taurus. Yeah. So when that time comes, when I get closer, we'll do a video. I mean, who knows? I might do that video tomorrow. Now that we're talking about Jupiter, we'll see. But I will let you know when that comes up, and I'll have it on there for Libra. I'll do it specifically for each sign because I think it's important. Um, we come to a new moon, and the new moon is funny, right? Think about this. I just talked about your 3rd house. And the 3rd house is Gemini energy, even though you have Sag there, right? Well, the new moon is in Gemini energy. It's a new moon in the sign of Gemini, new moon. And it is about talking and communication, the scribe. It's consuming information, but it's sharing information. The scribe keeps track. It's like our digital, our daily or our modern day reporter, the vlogger, right? The blogger. You know, we got people who are just constantly giving you the news of how they live their life. You know, I think of Boondocking with Dennis. I know there's a buttload of other people, but I enjoy his channel. It's super peaceful. It's very tropical. It's really kind of sometimes, yeah, the only place where I get my sense of peace in the digital realm anyway. You know, unless you're listening to like a meditation video or something, he's by the, you know, the Gulf shores or the, you know, Gulf of New Mexico, I should say. And, you know, Port Aransas area, just really beautiful palm trees and just, it's like you're somewhere else. You know, it's like you've had a tall glass with an umbrella in it and a nice cold drink without having to have that nice cold drink and that umbrella, like because I can't do alcohol. So that's my way of getting that. And Jupiter is that fantasy, sci-fi, right? Even though we don't think of Jupiter that way, but remember, if it's the ancient ruler also of Pisces energy, that means it has that ability to be a little delusional at times in the way that we think and communicate. Now, the new moon happening in your 10th house, Gemini energy, siblings, coworkers again comes up, keyword coworkers again, teaching, but it's your career because it's your 10th house. So this is specific for you, Libra, career, your 10th house. Let me double check. Okay, let's back up. My bad. Let's back up. Your new moon in Gemini may be in your 9th or maybe in your 10th. But I'm going to give this for this video. I'm talking about it, even though I already talked about it in someone's 10th, which would be your career. But if it's in your 9th, it's about beliefs. It's about all the things I just talked about. And that is because Libra ascendants, you have this very unique thing in your chart where in one side of the chart, you have both energies. This is all the way around your chart in all 12 houses. So I'll give you an example. Your 3rd house, it's Gemini energy, but you have Jupiter there. You have Sagittarius there. I said Jupiter because it rules Sag. I know I might be losing some people because I'm sharing it as I'm hearing it. You know what I mean? And I'm saying planets with signs because those planets rule that sign. But it's why we're so effing complex. That is why. When you hear all these different things, it's all of that. I know it's like, well, wait a minute, you just said that. It's all of it. In your 3rd house, the Gemini placement, 3rd house. Gemini rules this. Mercury rules this. Right. But you have Sagittarius there, and Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So that's why I say Gemini, Mercury, Sagittarius, and Jupiter, all in your 3rd house. Now, your 9th house, opposite of your 3rd, your 9th house is where the new moon is, typically. This is where the new moon is for you. Now, because it's at such a late degree, it may dip into the 10th house for many of you because it's at 26 degrees and 43 minutes, which is why I just kept seeing the 10th house in my brain. I mean, I have all the notes written down. I've already done all my homework for this video. And clearly your house shows the 9th house. You see that? But I keep seeing 10th house in the image in my brain as we're talking about this. I kept seeing it. So for whoever's listening, who's got the 2643 in your 10th, career and goals and ambitions, And it doesn't always have to be about your job because it's a vocation. It's something you work at persistently, connecting the dots. But like an authority on information, having Gemini in the 10th, like I'm an authority on information. And again, that's social media, Gemini at the 10th. And being somebody who likely may be online to set people straight, who may be like, these people are saying this and that, and here, I'm going to throw down some facts for your ass, that type of thing. Because the 10th house, once we've lived a nice amount of time, because it's Saturn up there that rules it, and Saturn demands our time. Yeah, Saturn demands our time. So once we've lived a nice amount of time, we've gained a position of recognition and authority. And we step in and we realize that we are an authority on something. After all the living and experiencing we've done, we've somehow become an authority on something. And at that 10th house, that's what that is for you. Gemini energy. An authority maybe on language, because remember, the scribe, language, and the use of words, and presenting information and making sure it's legit information, because it's Saturn there. So it's like there are rules that need to be, I think of somebody who can speak, different languages, and the rules that you have to learn, especially the English language, the verbs, the adverbs, the adjectives, right? The pronoun, like there's all this stuff. And these are all rules, right? And if you want to form a sentence, like that's not a sentence, this is, right? Like that's a particle. And then like, oh man, all that stuff that at one time I used to be good at that stuff too, but not anymore. I'm definitely not an authority on it. But my point is that you are somehow an authority on something. And so there could be an ambition and a goal, and it can be professional. Now, for those of you that have it in your 9th house, having Gemini energy in your 9th house, this is spirituality and religion. This is all the Sagittarius stuff and Jupiter stuff I already talked about. So I'm not cutting you out of the video. I've just already covered it. Because getting back to what I was saying, for Libra ascendants, in your 9th house, you have Gemini, and the ruler is Mercury there, but it's in the house number itself, 9, that is Sagittarius, ruler of Jupiter. So what you have in your 9th is the same as what you have in your 3rd. I know it's an overabundance of energy in this house and in this house, but that's all the way in your entire chart. So normally when people meet you, you are going to feel quite authentic in a sense to them, because there's something about that similar energy and having this here and having it here and having it twice throughout your chart. You are complex, but there's something about them feeling like whoever you appear to be as you present yourself to them, they're going to pick up on the, I want to say, the abundance of energy of who you are. And that's a pretty good word for Jupiter, abundance, because that's what Jupiter does. It adds to things. It expands things. It can exaggerate. It can just make it bigger than it really is sometimes even too. So keep that in mind about that Jupiter going through your 8th house. Now that I think of that, is it can make things bigger than they really are. There can be exaggerations on my values or our values, but it can also be the exaggerations of those wounds. And when I talk about 8th house, it's wounds from the past. And so Jupiter may exaggerate them. So keep that in mind for some of you, and just keep it in check. Keep it in check because it's for 14 months roughly. And now the new moon at 26:43, 27 degrees, that is going to be on the 17th of June. It's the 17th and the 18th of June. Because of the time, it could be either day. The time is 11:37 p.m., right? So my time zone is Central Daylight Time Zone. So adjust for the zone that you live in, and then you'll know what day it happens on. And we give out that new moon time because the teaching is that 8 hours prior to a new moon are the hours of power. And when we say hours of power, that is the most powerful time of setting your intentions. So whether you have a little ceremony, light a candle, or write things down, or just meditate, whatever it is that you do that works for you. right? To zone in on what you want to manifest and bring into your life. Ninth house, I hear voices. It's okay. Ninth house with Gemini energy, new moon. It's about the way I think and talk and communicate. It's my thoughts about traveling because it's your ninth house, my thoughts about my future, my spirituality, my religious belief, my thoughts about the truth in general, and the judicial system. Thoughts about the judicial system and the way you communicate about it. The way you communicate about it. Maybe you weren't communicating about it before. Maybe you will start, right? Maybe you will start. Ninth house is also the traveling. This is the house of traveling long distance. Traveling long distance. So having a new moon towards the 17th and the 18th and having it there means Mercury rules this new moon. So it's all about thinking. It's all about making plans. It's all about possibly seeing into the future because that's the ninth house, Sagittarius. It's like I'm getting like this really clear idea, this really clear vision of where I'm headed or what I'm going to be doing, right? And so Sagittarius and Jupiter is the seeker, constantly seeking. Maybe for some of you, you will be starting a new course or extended education, taking a class. Maybe some of you will be becoming the teacher. Maybe some of you who already are a teacher will be beginning a new course. So you do see now, right? Like there's a whole lot of different ways this can look. So this is dependent upon your Mercury and where she's located because Mercury rules this new moon. If you need help to figure this out in your chart, comment below and I'll help you out in any way I can. If you don't have your chart and you're like, holy shit, you're talking about my whole life here and I don't know anything about this. I should probably have my chart. I would agree with you. You should probably have your chart. I realize you may not know a thing about it, but there is no way other than to just dive in and to dive in a little piece at a time, at least get your chart in your hands. So comment below and I'll help you out. I'll get you started. Doesn't cost you a thing. Just comment to G and say, hello, I'm new. Get me started on this journey and we will start together. In the next one, be there because I'm definitely going to do the Jupiter conjunct Uranus because for so many, this can be a huge deal in their lives. And I'm thinking about it for myself as well. Now that I'm talking about it, like, holy crap, I want to know when and where, what degree does this happen, right? So let's do a video about it and we'll catch up then. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye. Below the video, I'll have all the degrees for those of you who like to pay attention to the degrees in your chart. Again, if you don't know and you want to know, just comment below.